Hey, listen, we've all had that moment. You gave him your trust, your time, your heart. What did he do? He mishandled it. He left, he ghosted, he cheated. He played games. Now you're sitting there hurting, wondering what went wrong, asking yourself, was it me? But I'm here to flip the script, because when he breaks your heart, you don't chase, you don't beg, you don't spiral, you break his ego, not out of revenge, but because your silence, your elevation, your glow up is the most powerful clapback you'll ever deliver. You know, one of the hardest things to do after someone breaks your heart is to say absolutely nothing. It feels unnatural, right? Every part of you wants to speak, explain, demand answers. You want to send that one final text that makes him understand how badly he hurt you. You want him to see your pain, feel guilty for it, maybe even realize he made a mistake and come running back. That's the fantasy. But here's the truth. He knows. He knows what he did. He knows he left you hanging or pulled away without a word or showed up as someone completely different than the man you fell for. And if he doesn't know, it's not because he's confused. It's because he doesn't care enough to find out. Hard pill to swallow, but it's also your freedom. You see, when a man hurts you and expects you to chase him for closure or beg for clarity, his ego is inflated. He's thinking, she's still attached to me. I've still got a hold on her. And the more you try to fix it, the more you convince him, you want him to see your pain, feel guilty for it, maybe even realize he made a mistake and come running back. That's the fantasy. But here's the truth. He knows. He knows what he did. He knows he left you hanging or pulled away without a word or showed up as someone completely different than the man you fell for. And if he doesn't know, it's not because he's confused. It's because he doesn't care enough to find out. Hard pill to swallow, but it's also your freedom. You see, when a man hurts you and expects you to chase him for closure or beg for clarity, his ego is inflated. He's thinking, she's still attached to me. I've still got a hold on her. And the more you try to fix it, the more you convince him. Strategy, it's self-respect. And in many cases, it's the loudest message you'll ever send. When he checks his phone and there's nothing from you, not even a, hey, I just wanted to talk, his brain goes into overdrive. Wait, is she really just done? Is she not even going to ask why I disappeared? Has she already moved on? That's the moment the ego begins to crack. Because the version of you he thought he could treat like an option has suddenly become unavailable. And I promise you, even if he doesn't say it, even if he pretends not to notice, he notices. That silence echoes. It messes with him. Because most people, especially the ones who are used to getting away with bad behavior, rely on your emotional reaction to validate their importance. So when you don't give it to them, it's not just silence, it's rejection. And let's be honest, if he broke your heart and walked away, he doesn't deserve your words. He doesn't deserve your explanation. You're not going to beg for someone who watched you fall and didn't care to catch you. You going ghost isn't about punishing him. It's about protecting you. You're reclaiming your peace, your dignity, your power. And sure, maybe he'll reach out. Maybe he'll text, hey stranger. Maybe he'll start liking your photos again. Maybe he'll say he misses you. But don't confuse ego checking with remorse. Half the time that message isn't about you. It's about him needing to know he still has access to you. And the most powerful thing you can do, don't give it to him. Don't open the door he casually walked out of and now suddenly wants to knock on again. Because trust me, a man's ego shatters when the woman he took for granted becomes the woman who doesn't even flinch when he returns. So instead of reacting, rise. Instead of explaining, evolve. Let him sit in the silence he created. Because when he breaks your heart, the last thing you owe him is your voice. And the first thing you owe yourself is peace. Let's talk about one of the most deceptively simple things that actually does more damage to your healing than you think. Watching, lurking, scrolling, refreshing. You say you're done with him. You say you're moving on. But then you're still watching his stories, still checking his profile, still analyzing who that girl is that suddenly started liking his posts. You're trying to convince yourself it's harmless. It's just a peek. I just want to see what he's doing. I'm just curious. No. You're feeding his ego. Every time you tap into his world, you're giving him a little more control over your emotional state. You're keeping him relevant in your mind. And worse, he knows it. He sees your name pop up under his stories. And let me tell you, he notices. He might pretend he doesn't. He might not acknowledge it. But every time you show up, there's a part of him that gets a hit of validation. It tells him she's still watching. I still matter to her. She's not over it. And here's the hard truth. If someone breaks your heart and still gets to feel important in your world without even having to lift a finger, they're not going to value what they lost. Why would they? They ghosted you. They hurt you. Maybe even lied to you. And yet, they're still getting your attention, not through texts, not through calls, but through your eyes on their life. You might think, well, I'm not reaching out, so I still have the upper hand. But your silence means nothing if your curiosity keeps giving him the stage. And let's flip it. You're not just feeding his ego, you're starving your own healing. Because every time you look, you reopen the door, you trigger yourself, you compare, you analyze, you start interpreting everything through the lens of, what does this mean? Is he happy? Is he seeing someone? Was she always in the picture? And suddenly you're not healing, you're obsessing. You're stuck in a cycle that he isn't even a part of anymore. And this part is going to sting a little, but I need to say it. If he's already moved on, or at least acting like it, he's not checking on you the way you're checking on him. You want to break his ego? Don't just unfollow, detach, mute him, block him if you need to, not to be petty, not to punish, but to protect your peace. That just checking you do before bed, that moment when you scroll his feed just to see what he's up to, that's not harmless. It's the thing keeping you tied to someone who's no longer showing up for you. And here's the beautiful part of letting go of that habit. You get your power back. Because the minute he notices your name isn't showing up anymore, the minute he realizes you've gone completely quiet, his ego feels the shift. Wait, where'd she go? She hasn't seen my story in days. Has she moved on? Now he's the one watching, and not just watching you, but wondering what you're doing, who you're doing it with, and more importantly, why you're not watching him. It's a reversal of energy. When someone pulls away from you and expects you to keep orbiting around their world, disappearing from that orbit breaks their sense of control. And that is what deflates the ego. But don't do it for that. Do it for you. Because real freedom, real healing, comes when you finally stop wondering what someone else is doing and start focusing on what you need. It's time you stopped using his life as your distraction and started rebuilding your own. The less you check, the less you care. The less you care, the more space you make for peace, for clarity, and for someone who just want your attention when it's convenient, but earns it every day. And yes, it's going to take discipline. You're going to feel that temptation at 11:43 p.m. when you're alone in your room and it takes everything in you not to go look. But that little moment of resistance, that's growth. That's power. That's where you rise. So the next time your finger hovers over his profile, ask yourself, am I feeding my healing or feeding his ego? And then close the app, because if you broke your heart, the last place he deserves to live is in your mind. You know what's underrated after heartbreak? Reinvention. And I'm not talking about throwing on a different outfit and pretending you're fine. I'm talking about genuinely, intentionally choosing to elevate your life in a way that not only helps you heal, but makes you unrecognizable to the version of yourself that accepted less than she deserved. Because let's be real, when someone breaks your heart, they're not just hurting you emotionally, they're challenging how you see yourself. They're forcing you to ask, was I not good enough? Was something wrong with me? And that's the trap. That's the narrative that keeps you stuck, questioning, doubting, shrinking. But here's what I want you to hear loud and clear. The way someone mishandled you is not a reflection of your value, it's a reflection of their capacity. And the most powerful response to someone who didn't see your worth is to become someone they never would have had the maturity to keep. Elevate everything. Not to prove a point, not to spite him, but to remind yourself was always being true. Your life was never dependent on his presence. And now that he's out of the picture, there's nothing stopping you from becoming the version of you he never got to meet. level up your health. Start showing up for your body again. Go for that walk. Join that class. Nourish yourself, not because you're trying to look hot so he'll regret it, but because you're honoring your body as your own. The body that carried you through the pain, that didn't shut down when you wanted to collapse, that kept going, even when your heart was shattered. Level up your start, not to be seen by him, but because the moment you start dressing for the woman you're becoming, not the one who got left behind, you carry yourself differently. You walk into a room with presence, not because you're trying to be noticed, but because you've started noticing yourself again. And this isn't about aesthetics, it's about alignment. When you start aligning your actions, your habits, your space, your energy with the life you actually want to live, the people who don't fit that life start falling away. And the ones who do, they start showing up. Here's the secret no one tells you. Heartbreak can be a launchpad. It can wake something up in you that comfort and certainty never could. The version of you who's evolving right now. She didn't exist before the heartbreak. She was born from it. And the truth is, nothing breaks a man's ego faster than watching the woman he once took for granted become the kind of woman he now wishes he could reach, but no longer has access to. That distance between who you were with him and who you've become without him, that's what humbles him. But again, don't do it for him. Do it for the woman who stayed up at night wondering what was wrong with her. For the girl who silenced her needs to avoid being too much. For the version of you that kept accepting less because you were afraid of losing what little he gave. She deserves more. She deserves to rise. So invest in yourself, pour into your goals, start the thing you put off while waiting for him to text you back. Reconnect with your friends, reclaim your voice, take up space in the world again, not cautiously, not apologetically, but boldly, because the glow up isn't just about how you look, it's about what you own. It's about the energy you radiate when you realize that nothing external ever defined you. It's about showing up in your life like it belongs to you again. You don't owe him a meltdown. You don't owe him proof that you're fine. You just keep building, you keep rising, you keep becoming, because eventually he's going to see it. Whether on social media, through mutual friends, or just through the silence you've maintained while creating a whole new world without him. And when that moment comes, when he finally notices what he lost, don't gloat, don't flex, just smile and keep walking. Because if he broke your heart, the best thing you can do is build a life that makes him irrelevant. You know what's absolutely transformative after heartbreak? Flirting with life itself. I don't mean flirting in some superficial look at me way. I mean leaning into the freedom you've just been handed, because when someone breaks your heart and walks away, whether they realize it or not, they're giving you back your life. And what you choose to do with that life, that's where your power lies. See, heartbreak often feels like a heavy weight, like everything is stuck in slow motion and your world has shrunk down to the ache of what you lost. But what if you flipped that? What if instead of letting that weight pin you down, you started to see it as the very thing that frees you? You're no longer tied to someone's expectations, drama, or emotional unpredictability. You're no longer waiting for his next text or trying to read between his lines. You're free. And that freedom, it's magnetic. Flirting with your freedom means saying yes to the things you might have been too scared to try before. It means exploring parts of yourself that went quiet while you were busy to make the relationship work. It means rediscovering what lights you up, whether it's a dance class, a weekend trip, a late night coffee with a stranger, or even just curling up with a book you'd been meaning to read. When you start saying yes to life like that, something magical happens. You stop being defined by the relationship that ended. You start to define yourself by your experiences, your growth, your joy. And here's the kicker. When you do this genuinely, without trying to make him jealous or prove anything, you become irresistible, because authenticity is magnetic. Confidence born from self-love is impossible to ignore. Picture this. You post a story from that spontaneous road trip you took with friends, or a photo of you laughing at a concert you decided to go to on a whim, or even just a quiet moment where you're glowing because you're finally at peace with yourself. You don't have to caption it with anything clever or call out the past. The message is clear without words. I'm here, I'm thriving, I'm free. That's what breaks his ego, not the angry texts or the desperate pleas, not the late night calls or the I miss you messages. It's the undeniable proof that you don't need him to be whole, that you're not waiting for him to fix your happiness because you're creating your own. Flirting with your freedom also means flirting with new people, not in a way that's reckless or trying to replace what you lost, but in a way that reminds you there's a whole world of connection out there. You're not settling, you're exploring, you're opening yourself up to new possibilities, new friendships maybe, even new love on your own terms. And that's crucial, because if you jump into something just to make him jealous or to fill the void, you're still giving him power. But if you start living fully and allow others to come into your life naturally, that's when you reclaim your narrative. Letting yourself flirt with life means embracing uncertainty. It means stepping outside your comfort zone and saying, I'm ready for whatever's next, even if it scares me. That's growth, that's strength, and that's the kind of energy no broken heart can dim. Also, flirting with your freedom teaches you one of the most important lessons. Your worth isn't tied to someone else's presence or absence. You don't need a relationship to validate you. You don't need someone's attention to feel alive. You are enough, exactly as you are. And here's the beautiful irony. The more you step into that freedom, the more attractive you become, not just to others, but to yourself. You start to fall in love with your own resilience, your courage, your joy. And that love radiates outward, drawing the right people and experiences toward you. So don't be afraid to flirt with your passions, with your friendships, with new opportunities, with the simple pleasures of life. Dance when the music plays, laugh until your cheeks hurt. Say yes to the unexpected, because every time you do, you're reminding yourself and anyone watching that you're more than the heartbreak. You're a force, a whole, vibrant, unstoppable force. And when he sees you living like this, free, radiant, and unapologetically alive, that's when his ego takes the biggest hit. Because the woman he thought he could break, she's gone. And in her place stands someone who's just getting started. You know, one of the biggest misconceptions after heartbreak is the idea that you have to show him how amazing you are. There's this temptation to put on a performance, post the perfect photos, craft the wittiest captions, or flaunt your success like a trophy. And yes, that can feel satisfying in the moment, like you're getting some kind of revenge. But here's the thing, showing him isn't really the point. What you should focus on is showing you, because there's a fundamental difference between trying to prove something to someone who already decided to walk away and truly embodying your worth for yourself. When you operate from the place of show him, you're still giving him power over your emotions and your actions. You're still allowing his opinion to shape your self-worth. You're performing for an audience that might not even be watching. And if they are watching, they might be watching just to hurt you more. But when you show you, it's different. It's authentic. It's grounded in self-respect and growth. Showing you means living your life in a way that feels true to your values and your vision. It means investing in your happiness, not because you want him to see it, but because you want to feel it. It means waking up each day and choosing to become the person you admire, not the person he thought he knew. This shift in mindset is a game changer, because when you stop performing and start living genuinely, you stop caring about his approval. You stop waiting for his validation. And suddenly, your energy changes. You stop being reactive and start being proactive. You're no longer trying to fit into a mold that someone else created for you. Instead, you're carving out your own space, your own life, and you're doing it on your own terms. And that's what breaks his ego. Not because you're flaunting your new job. your new friends, or your new relationship, but because you've stopped existing in his shadow. You're no longer the woman who changes her mood or her plans based on his whims. You're the woman who makes decisions based on what's right for you. Let me tell you this, healing is not linear. There will be days when you want to post that selfie, to shout to the world that you're okay, and there will be days when you just want to hide. Both are fine. The key is to do it authentically. Your healing doesn't need to be a performance. It doesn't need to be public. It just needs to be real. When you're real with yourself, when you acknowledge your pain, your growth, and your strength, you build a foundation no one can shake. And here's a secret. The more you own your story, the less power the past holds over you, because showing you is really about reclaiming your narrative. It's about telling yourself every day that your value isn't tied to someone else's choices, that your worth isn't diminished by their mistakes, that your identity is not what someone else decided it should be. And when you live from that place, your confidence radiates without effort. It's magnetic, not because you're trying to be magnetic, but because you're whole. And that kind of confidence, it's the ultimate ego breaker, because he thought he could define you. He thought he could control the story, but you're rewriting the narrative and you're doing it on your own terms. So don't waste energy trying to show him what he lost. Instead, focus on showing you, the resilient, radiant, unapologetic woman who refused to be diminished by heartbreak. And trust me, that is the most powerful message you can send. Here's something vital to understand. Forgiveness is not about him. It's not about excusing what he did or pretending the hurt never happened. Forgiveness is about you. It's about freeing yourself from the chains of bitterness, resentment, and anger that can keep you trapped long after he's gone. When someone breaks your heart, it's natural to want to hold on to that pain like a shield. You think, if I forgive him, does that mean I'm okay with what he did? Does it mean have to let him off the hook? The answer is no. Forgiveness isn't about giving him permission to hurt you. It's about reclaiming your power by choosing to release the grip that the past has on your present. Think about it. Anger and bitterness are exhausting. They weigh you down, cloud your judgment, and prevent you from fully moving on. When you carry that burden, you're still emotionally connected to him, even if he's not physically in your life. It's like carrying a heavy suitcase that you don't need to carry anymore. Forgiveness is setting that suitcase down. And here's where the ego comes in. When you forgive someone who broke your heart, not for their sake, but for your own, it's a powerful statement. It says, you no longer have control over my emotions. It says, I am not a prisoner of your mistakes. And that, more than anything, is a direct hit to the ego of the person who thought they could break you. Forgiving isn't easy. It doesn't mean forgetting. It means acknowledging the pain, learning from it, and then deciding that you're going to live your life without being defined by it. You're choosing peace over chaos, healing over hurt. I want you to imagine what your life would look like if you held on to that bitterness for years. How much energy would you waste? How many opportunities for joy, love, and growth would you miss because you're stuck in a loop of pain? Now imagine the opposite. Imagine choosing forgiveness, not because he deserves it, but because you deserve peace, because you owe it to yourself to live a life free from the shadows of what happened. That's where true power lies. And here's the thing, forgiveness doesn't happen overnight. It's a process. Some days you'll feel like you've forgiven completely. And other days the anger will resurface. That's normal. Healing isn't a straight line. It's a journey. But every time you choose forgiveness, even in the smallest way, you chip away at the hold he has over your heart and your mind. You reclaim your freedom a little more. You rebuild your strength. And when you live with that strength, when you move forward without bitterness, you're sending a message louder than words ever could. You're telling him that while he may have broken your heart, he didn't break your spirit. That's the ultimate ego breaker. Because a man who thinks he can hurt you and keep you trapped in pain underestimates the power of a woman who chooses to rise above. So don't hold on to what weighs you down. Choose forgiveness, not for him, but for you. So when he breaks your heart, don't try to fix it with the same hands that shattered it. Break his ego, not with bitterness, but with brilliance. And remember, the moment you stop trying to prove your worth to him is the moment he starts questioning his worth to you. Thank you.